What's popping with the population? It's another episode of Do Rag with the Cape Roll. It's me, Dre, here talking about, you know, the goings on in the world and trying to make sense of this insane society that we live in today. This is episode I don't know anymore. I've been stopped counting a while ago. And also, this is day I don't remember anymore in regards to the bombardment of Palestinian people by those interlopers that are currently residing inside of stolen Palestine, which is Israel. Oh snap, I forgot to turn off the notification sounds to my phone. So pardon that beep. I'll get to that text later. Currently, I think this is like month 7 or 8 since the indiscriminate bombing of all of the land that was partitioned off to the people in Palestine by the UN, with, thanks to Britain and France. Because anytime something wrong in the world is happening, you can kind of tie it back to a British or French colony or empire, or currently happening now or before. Like, they always have something to do with what's going on in the world. So currently the ICC, the International Criminal Court or whatever, they're issuing warrants supposedly for like BB's bitch ass and a couple of other people in the Likud party, and to some Hamas leaders. And I think like the charges are like the killings of people. From what I saw, it wasn't really anything that was necessarily like screaming war crimes. I mean, it was like kinda, but not really. Like, it was real theater in the charges, and even charging the Hamas leadership was kind of off, because one of the things was charging them for like sexual assault. The scrape charges that they keep saying that have been debunked multiple times over. Some people feel like they just are sending out warrants for Hamas leaders just so that they can send out warrants for stolen Palestine, aka Israel leaders. But again, it's like theater, because just because they send out a warrant doesn't mean they're gonna get arrested. Usually the only people that ever actually see justice, so to speak, in the ICC are African leaders. Like, a lot of the times it's like former despots from Africa that end up in that court more often than it is anybody else. Because, like, for instance, Vladimir Putin, he has a warrant. Vladimir Putin is still doing Vladimir Putin stuff. So it's if anything, it changes the optics more. But you can argue, like, but the optics for who? Because we could say, like, hey, we can probably change the minds of some people. Because, I mean, there are some people that live in stolen Palestine, aka Israel, that are changing their tune. Because there was already people that were living there that didn't like the occupation, that either didn't know about it, like as they were younger, like younger Israeli people that are living there or whatnot, that were taught, the wrong things and then figured it out on their own or through whatever channels they figured it out and are now singing a different tune. There's already Israeli people. There's like Orthodox Jews, people that are Orthodox Jews who are against the war and the occupation for the right terms, and there's ones that are against the war because they against conscription, because there's some Orthodox Jewish people that live there that are only there to learn the Torah, teach the Torah, and mind their business. But then there's Orthodox Jews who are there to do the same thing, but also are against the illegal occupation. Because I think the people don't realize that not every single person that is in Israel, in stolen Palestine, aka Israel, they're all settlers, but not every single person there is moving on that same type of time as the big swath of Israeli people that are, because the U.S. government is trying to make it seem like, I mean, first of all, they're arguing against the ICC giving them a warrant, saying that's wild, but of course they would. But they're trying to make it seem like the government and the people are separate. And in certain instances, that's true. In certain places, that's true. But there is a lot of things that the civilians of Israel are doing that are lock, stock, and barrel in line with what the power dynamic is doing.
תראו, חבר'ה פה, לא מפחדים, בחורות, בחורים, איזה יופי, נותנים את המשאיות של החמאס, מקסימה.
If you look at the West Bank and you see that there are a lot of armed militias that they were given guns by like Ben Gvir and all that to patrol and rule over the West Bank and attack Palestinian people, steal homes, kill people, yada yada yada. But there's, like I said, there's also Israeli people who aren't on that type of time, but you don't ever see them getting any press because you gotta keep the narrative the way it is. Because again, it's a thing of optics when it comes to all of this. So they put out, the warrant to try to get, the warrants for the arrest of those individuals, speaking about, the crimes that they're committing. And then, of course, Israel is like, nah, we're not doing that. And we're not going to respect what you're talking about. The U.S. power structure is like, yeah, nah, that's wild. We got to handle it our own ways. You can't do that. But yet they still are, bombing, taking the lives. Every 5 seconds, you're finding out more heinous things that they're doing. They found mass graves in the parts of Palestine that are evacuated. With people who have their hands zip tied. They found some more hostages from the Nova Festival. They found, I think, like 3 that were found dead. Of course, they blamed Hamas, but clearly, Israel did it because they've been bombing things indiscriminately. And they have smart bombs and dumb bombs, so they've been using a lot of their dumb bombs, meaning it's like they're not targeting anything specifically, they're just targeting everything. So they've been taking out the hostages that they claim they want to save, because again, this is a genocide. But again, it's all about optics, it's what you see, because what you see is what you get. But some people can still see what they're seeing and still claim they're not seeing what they're seeing. And that is the issue that we fall into with a lot of the world today, where, just period, where you choose to be outraged or give support to what you want to by the way that you see that thing. For instance, you got people like Sean Combs, a.k.a. P. Diddy, a.k.a. Diddy, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, pause, a.k.a. Brother Love, I think is the last name he went by, who got raided not too long ago by, like, Homeland Security and the feds or whatnot for, like, human trafficking and all types of other insane stuff. And a lot of people were saying, like, yeah, we've kind of known about him for a while, like, especially in the hip-hop community. They've known that he was, like, a weird kind of guy, moving on a weird type of time, but was super powerful.
I was fucking this bad bitch, she fucking me good, and every other girl be crazy. I pulled up to her crib, I
was getting away with a lot, right? And at that time, before he got raided, you had the Cassie case where she came out and said that he assaulted her, did all types of foul stuff to her. And rather than anybody just, believe in the victim and just reserving judgment for the accused until, things came to to her head, pause, or the light, they just immediately went to disparaging and lambasting her and just completely attacking her character. Like, oh, she just want money. Oh, she's a failed artist. Oh, she's just trying to get at him. Yada, 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 yada. Then the video comes out a few days ago of him putting his hands on her and viciously putting his hands on her in a hotel, in a towel, A-Town stomping her out on the floor, throwing a vase at her, I think smacking her too. And this was from 2016, and he allegedly paid $50K to get the tape. Then they finally let it out, and now people are like, oh, dang, that's wild. You know, a lot of people are arguing like, yeah, you know, maybe the people that weren't believing her are going to believe her now. It's like, that's not a realistic thought, because if you already operate from that mindset, that video doesn't do anything for you. That's not to say that you don't see it as real. It's to say that you've had your mind made up. You hate women, basically, but you've had your mind made up in regards to how you view this person being Sean Combs, aka Diddy, aka Puff Daddy, Pause, aka Brother Love, I think it's the last name you go by. You already had your mind made. This, if anything, is just like, dang, this is a slip up by him, right? And then he gives this half-hearted apology about what he's done and speaks about it in a way that it sounds like he's talking in third person, like, I can't believe, I was in a dark place, yada, yada, yada. I was like, fam, that was in 2016. You could have made this apology a long time ago to her. What are you talking about? But that's the thing that people that do evil things do. People that are in a position of power or hold some kind of power over somebody or something, they speak from a place of complete power, like they're omnipotent, like and omniscient. They're like God. They speak from like a God kind of. They have a God kind of complex, where any transgression that they commit, they refuse to speak about it in a way. It's like in a way that sounds like they did it. They speak about it in a way that sounds like either this is what had to be done and they had no choice, or that they weren't themselves in the moment. So, for instance, Israel doing all of the killings and taking and unaliving over 35,000 people. It's like, well, you have people like, oh, this is war. This is what happens. And then what? And then you have your boy Sean Combs, aka Diddy, aka Puff Daddy, Pause, aka Brother Love, and this is the last name you go by, talk like, I was in a bad place. It's like, no, you did the thing, fam. You did that, black man. What are you talking about, black man? You did that. Nobody else did that. You did that. No one else was indiscriminately bombing Gaza, Khan Yunis, Rafah. You did that, Israeli government, with the help of the U.S., with the help of all your other Western partners, with the help of Germany. You did that. Like, don't talk like you're not doing the thing. But the reason that they have to speak like that is because to their followers, to their sycophants, they have to keep that air of godliness. And it's very strange. And like with the American media kind of trying to cleanse its way, well, not even cleanse, but trying to pivot somewhat to showing the ills of the current genocide that they want to call a war in stolen Palestine, aka Israel. They are not really having a change of heart more than they're just following the milieu of the media currently from all sides, because we live in an era where you can get media from everywhere. I'm technically giving you media type stuff right now. So they're talking about the mass graves, like you have CNNs like talking about the mass graves. Some of them even talked about the Nutba celebration. They're talking about these things, but they're talking about it from a way like, yeah, this is wild that this is going on and this happened. Here's this, but we're just giving you the news. Like, we aren't complicit in being the thing that is justifying the genocide, which all of these mainstream news outlets like the Foxes, the CNNs, the MSNBCs, the NBCs, all of the big ones that pause that we're not complicit in when you are though. So like now your like pivot is not really genuine because it took you over 35,000 people to be like, yo, it's kind of messed up what they doing. It's fake. You're just doing the thing where you're acting as if you aren't the one doing the thing. It's weird, but it's a thing that abusers do. They have to talk to you in a way that they act like they didn't do the thing they just did. It's like if somebody punched you in the face, like, damn, I was drunk. But you still punched me. It don't matter what you were. I'm not, what? Like, so you try to understand these people with these weird dynamics of wanting power or being able to hold on to power and how they are able to influence their following, whether it be with Israel having their influence in the states, so much so that Republican lawmakers want to push funding to Israel as far as guns and stuff, so much so that if it gets denied, they will pull funding from the U.S. military because that makes sense to somebody. Like, yo, we wanna fund this genocide so bad that we'll defund our own military for it. What? Like, you'll have people denying a woman's abuse or whatnot, all while still calling the person that did it weird, but you're like, nah, but he ain't that weird. He ain't do that. Like, women always are trying to look for a way out. You'll have people like, yeah, Bill Cosby wanted to buy NBC. What? Like, two things can be right. Bill Cosby could also want to buy NBC and also be a predator. That's not, what are we talking about? And that predatory behavior is big with people with power, because power is for the weak, because it's something that's made up. It's something that doesn't exist if nobody believes you have that power, like that you are strong. And I mean like physically strong. I mean like that you have an influence. If no one cares, you don't have power. Like if everybody removes themselves from the bug light that is you and hovers over something else and orbits something else, you don't have that power anymore. You are now just a person. You get what I'm saying? Like money and all this other stuff is they're tools, but they mean nothing if the outside of that, like if the people that are reacting to what's going on don't care and they remove themselves, and whether they remove their labor, and their attention from you, you don't have any power anymore. It shifts. But famous people like politicians, like people in religious positions and all that stuff, they have to find ways to keep you suckling at the teat. So you can have, like, for instance, they are bringing up all of these people with their weird movements around young women. Your boy Aubrey, 69 God. But nobody really talks about Sean Carter, Jay-Z. Some people blasphemously call him Hove. They don't talk about the fact that Beyonce was kind of young when they started talking. Some say she was 20. Some say she was 19. I don't know. She was kind of young. And he was like 33 or something like that. He was an older man. Right? He was an older man. She was a young girl who's been not really she wasn't really living her young girl life, because Beyonce and Destiny Child or whatever have you, they were performing as children. They were like child stars, like the Jackson 5. Like they never really had a childhood. She was famous her whole life, right? So she never really had the chance and ability to like skin her knee on the ground or like play on the monkey bars and nothing like that. She was performing her whole life. Jay-Z, grown man. Think 30 plus, at least 32, 33. She was 19, 20 years old when they first started dating, allegedly. Weirdo vibes. Why are you after a 20-year-old, 19-year-old? What's wrong with you? Right? They don't talk about Now listen to the math. When Nas and Jay-Z were beefing, Nasty Nas, the Esco to the Escobar Nasty, it's Nostradamus, we're beefing. Nas has a famous song called You Owe Me. It is a very salacious song. It is a old school hip hop song. That's not to say that, you know, just forgive him for it. It's a wild song. You owe me for ice. The song is shorty, say what's your price. Because when you back it up, you can hold my ice. Now let's say you owe me something. Yeah, owe me back like you owe your rent. Owe me back for this money I spent. It's a wild song. Basically, it's sexual. It's a sexual favor song, right? In that video with Nas and Genuine, he had cameos, some very strong cameos, some cameos that were edited. The cameos he had was Destiny's Child. Nas is a younger man, so younger than Jay-Z. I don't remember the age at the time. Destiny's Child was in this video. This was around the time that Jay-Z was courting Beyonce out of high school. Jay-Z was courting Beyonce. She was in the video. And also DMX was in the video. This was around the time DMX had the rap game on Smidash. Yeah, I think he already had the 2 albums go platinum, like back to back, like in a 3-month span. And he wasn't really that cool with Jay-Z. So he was in the video. Beyonce, the woman he was courting, was in the video. Jay-Z was courting. Nas also was wearing bandanas like Tupac in the video as subliminal message because Tupac didn't like Jay-Z. It's a layered video. You watch that video again, you're like, wow. And the thing that was edited out of the video was that Nas got Beyonce to wear his chain in the video. And a lot of rappers will talk about, and a lot of men, there's just a weird thing that men do with women, talk about ownership of women, right? Wearing a dude's chain is an ownership thing. Oh, that's my girl type thing, right? And it was just a stab, no pun intended, or no unintended, at Jay-Z. But she was a young lady, right? But there's also other talks of Jay-Z operating weirdly with young women. Foxy Brown, right, was like 16 or something when she was out there rapping. There's people that allege that he was messing with Shorty. I don't think they ever alleged if Nas was, even though like she was a part of the firm, like she was like talking wild, crazy stuff, L99, all that, but she was young. But there's talks of him possibly messing with Foxy Brown at a young age. But people don't say anything about it because Hova, right? You see what I'm saying? And this is, again, not to go down no rabbit holes, but it's a thing of if you look at people in a certain light, you don't give space for them to be weird to you. And you see these odd power dynamics. Excuse me, sorry. You see these odd power dynamics because people who want power are weak. Like they're fiending for you to accept them because they suck, like, as a human.
Nasty.
Like Sean Combs, a.k.a. Diddy, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, Pause, a.k.a. I think Brother Love is his last name, what they call him, making hits for years, decades. People have said stuff about him for years, decades. It finally all came to a head with Cassie initially, but rather than people being like, yeah, you know, this kind of is aligned with a lot of other stuff, they're like, nah, she's lying. Because those same people, that's not an isolated incident. People don't believe women ever. And then when it comes out, they're like, oh yeah, you know, maybe these people have changed. No, they won't. It's going to stay the same. With the news talking about some of the stuff that Israel, aka Stolen Palestine, is doing, they're not going to change their tune about it because you still have them talking disrespectfully about the college encampments that are fighting against apartheid, fighting against a ethnic cleansing. And they're still like, yeah, but they being messy. And what are they even mad about? Like, there's so much other stuff going on. And get a job. Like, they're in college. They're in college, bitch. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot of theater. You need to peel back the layers to the theater that is what's happening right now. The weird movements of these people are allowed because when it comes to famous people, that's anybody that's in the limelight, whether it be politician, whatever, the sycophants, the following, they want that power too. Because they are also weak too. They are also very weird. They are also running down women in hotel hallways and A-Town, stomping them out and throwing vases at them and paying for the video so they don't get caught. And then making an apology video about 7 years later talking about, I was in a dark time, I can't believe I did that. That was 7 years ago. 8 years ago at this point. What are you talking about? You knew what you did. You was trying to hide it. You just got caught. And then now there's people talking about like, oh yeah, I can't believe the ICC is going to be giving them arrest warrants. What are they even doing? Are they doing a genocide? Over 35,000 people have died. More than like about 14,000, something like that. Children and women and children being killed. And they're like, oh no, I can't believe that's happening. You're like, oh, it's all that's going on. Like Sudan is being destroyed by the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, and the SAF, the Sudanese Armed Forces, who are both funded by Western powers, and they're destroying the inhabitants and starving people, and no one's caring because there's so much going on. The DRC, the Congo, is being stripped of everything, and no one's caring because of all this. Because either one, they don't know, or because they're like, oh yeah, that's just what Africans do. And it's like, no, but when you realize that the Western influence in African nations is why a lot of this fighting is happening. So that's not to say that fighting in Africa doesn't just happen because, two different factions of a group in an African country want to fight, but it's to say that a lot of the ones that are really polarized are usually ones that are funded by the West. And the polarization, I mean, in regards to, like, if you look at what's happening in these places and you see that they're getting news coverage, and if you peel back the layers to the news and you look at like what's in these places mineral wise, like Congo with like the diamonds and the cobalt and all that. Sudan, I don't know what natural resource, I think oil maybe, but this Darfur, like, you get what I'm saying? Like the ones that are polarized, those ones are usually ones, if you peel back the layers, there's stuff there that they're stealing, that the West is stealing. So yeah, man, you gotta lift the veil because it's a lot happening, and you should care about everything. Even though that sounds hard, that doesn't mean that you don't take care of yourself, though. So make sure to love you, not like brother love, but make sure to love you and keep your do-rag cape paroled. I almost fumbled on my letters. My words. My letters. What? Also, wait, before I go though, last thing I want to say. Tyler Perry needs to be stopped. He is perhaps the worst screenwriter, playwright, director ever. The way in which he writes movies makes absolutely no sense. I'm going to bring two movies up real quick before I close out. And I want you to watch those, illegally stream those movies. Do not give him any more money. We need to stop him. Illegally stream these movies. Okay? If you have Netflix, they're probably on there. Just watch it on Netflix if you got Netflix or Tubi or whatever. Mia Culpa and Temptations stories from a marriage counselor. These two movies, in a nutshell, are basically about successful or up-and-coming black women who are in somewhat loveless marriages, or just like they're having rocky marriages for whatever reasons, who are tempted by the flesh of another man and immediately disregard their sanity and go off with these men who are awful, and they in turn destroy their lives because of infidelity. And then they're blamed for it by Tyler Perry. So, real quick, Temptations, Diary of a Marriage Counselor. First of all, in the movie, you don't, when in the beginning of the movie, when she starts explaining the story of herself, basically, Judith!
What's wrong? What? What's,
Judith!
What's the matter?
Judith!
You don't know what year it's in. Because when you watch the flashback, they go through about 46 eras of blackness in about 10 minutes. You don't know which year it's in, right? She gets married to Lance Gross. They both are broke, but they live in Washington, D.C. She's, like I said, marriage counselor, I think psychiatrist or whatever. He has dreams and aspirations of being a local pharmacist that owns a small pharmacy. Their life is kind of boring. Kim Kardashian is there, and her face doesn't move, and she can't act. She doesn't blink. She has so much Botox in her face. She looks like a mask with a fake ass. It's weird. She meets a client. He's wild. Harvey or Harley or whatever, wild dude, comes on to her. There's a scene that don't want to explain it to you because it's wild, but Tyler Perry should go to jail for it. Scene happens, changes her mind, she wants to mess with Harley. Messes with Harley, she goes down like the worst road ever. In the way that she even got into messing with Harley, she had like 2 hurricanes, a beignet, some wine, and then everything changed, bro. She just went insane. Started snorting. She did 1 line of coke, snorting coke, became rest of the movie scratching her nose, doing weird twitches with her face. Her whole bot changed, everything. Boom.
Judith,
Everybody,
come on, let's go.
go home.
Judith, let's go now. Get up.
I don't think she wants to go with you.
Judith, let's go.
Baby, I'm getting tired of this.
Baby.
Life goes down the drain. End of the movie, she gets crippling AIDS. And I mean crippling. Her whole walk change. She's limping. She's in pain walking. AIDS doesn't do that. But it's happening to her. That's her life. Wow. I could go further, but I said this is going to be quick. Mia Copa, Kelly Rowland. It's a Netflix movie. She's in basically a loveless marriage, and beginning the movie with that one, they're talking marriage counselor. Ain't really going right. Boom. She's a lawyer dealing with a client who's like up for he's dealing with a murder charge. He's whispering the whole movie. You can't hear him even if you turn the TV up. He painting. She meeting him in all types of places. She keeps meeting him at the crib for some weird reason. Meet him at the crib. Ah, crap. No. Meet him at the crib for some weird reason. He's on it. She finally breaks because, again, she's in a loveless marriage. Ends up following him to a weird sex, because Tyler Perry loves putting sex dungeons in his movie. Following a weird sex dungeon. Ends up sleeping with him. But before she slept with him, she watched him freak off with some joint. And while he was freaking off with Shorty, there was horror music playing. Like, whoever did the score, which is Tyler Perry, is insane. There's horror music playing while he's freaking off. And Kelly Rowland is watching from an elevator. And it turns her on with the horror music playing as he's staring at her in her eyes as he's freaking off. Makes no sense. She started messing with him. They end up sleeping together in paint. She ends up getting soccer kicked in the back. The right people go to prison. Tyler Perry has to go to prison. He is terrible for film. He talks about like, yo, I do this all by myself. It's because you don't want to pay anybody. If you paid people, you would make better movies. You psycho. I don't care about the success that he has because there's a lot of people that run really fast in place. It doesn't matter because success is what you deem it to be. Him having money and like fame from his movies, what does that really? That doesn't really say much about anything. It just says that there's an audience out there that really likes crap and that he got money for it. Go to jail, Tyler Perry. Alright. And everybody that's watching this, make sure you keep your do-rag cape rolled. Peace.